Video 5, Making Electrical Connections. In this video, we will show how to make connections in an electric fence, showing how to connect your strands of hot wires together, how to cross gate sections, along with installing gate cutoff switches. For this fence design, we have 3 offset hot wires we will be jumping together and using the woven wire on the existing fence as our ground wire. For our gates, we will bury lines under each gate to carry our hot connections between each section of the fence. This allows for a flow of energy in a closed loop system that goes around the whole fence even when the gates are open. For making our connections, the tools we will be using include wire cutters, fence pliers, wire strippers, insulated burial wire, NiCoPress taps or sleeves for making our connections, along with a NiCoPress tool. First, we are going to start by showing how to jump 2 wires together. For this step, we will be using insulated wire to make our jump or connections between the wires, which will carry the electricity from one hot wire to the next. Using insulated wire will help prevent grounding issues by protecting the wire between the connections. If you don't have insulated wire to use, you can make a jumper connection using high tensile wire and just use insulators to offset the jumper wire so it does not come into contact with any other wires on the fence. For our first jump between these 2 lines, we will want to measure a length of insulated wire that covers the distance between the 2 wires we will be connecting, as well as leaving a few extra inches on either end for making the connection. Cut the insulated wire to length, then using wire strippers, cut back about a ½ inch of the insulated tubing to expose the wire for making the connection. For making wire connections, there are various tools and methods you can use, from wire tying techniques to using joint clamps or NiCoPress sleeves and taps to connect 2 or more wires. For our fence, we will be using NiCoPress wire taps for making our wire connections, in this case connecting our hot wires together. We will use a NiCoPress tool to clamp down the tap, securing our wire connection. Repeat for the bottom connection, cutting a piece of insulated wire to length to connect the 2 wires together. Now we have our 3 hot wires connected together. Next, we will go around the entire fence line, connecting the hot wires on each of the sections of fence that are separated by a gate. We will repeat the same steps to connect our 3 offset hot wires on the gates. Using insulated wire, measure a length of wire to connect the 2 lines, leaving extra length on each end for the connections. Cut the wire and strip back about a ½ inch of the tubing on both ends to expose the wire for making the connections. Using NiCoPress taps, secure the connection on each line. You can also use small fencing staples to keep the wire tucked in, just being sure not to puncture the insulated tubing on the wire. Now that our gate wires are connected, we're going to bury insulated wire underneath the gates to carry energy from one section of the fence to the other. Before any digging, always be sure to schedule a locate by contacting 811. This will ensure you do not hit any underground lines. Use a shovel to dig roughly 6 to 12 inches down to bury the line. If the gate use is mostly foot traffic, using just burial insulated wire buried about 6 to 12 inches or more down should be sufficient enough to keep the wire protected. If the gate use includes vehicles driving through, consider burying the wire in conduit pipe to further protect the wire. For burying the wire, dig a narrow trench the length of the gate and extending about 6 inches off each end to bring up the connections. This is where we will lay our insulated burial wire. Measure our insulated burial wire the length of the gate and the trench with an extra 6 to 12 inches on each end, allowing plenty of extra wire to connect to your hot wire. Cut the insulated wire back using a wire stripper to strip back about a ½ inch of the insulated tubing to expose the wire for making a connection. Our fence design also includes a ground wire. In our case, we're using the woven wire on the existing fence. To connect our ground wire sections, we will lay a second wire in the trench to connect our ground wire sections. This can be uninsulated high tensile wire, or to prevent any potential contact between the ground wire and the hot wire, you can use insulated burial wire. Lay out the ground wire in along the trench, the length of the gate, again with about 6 to 12 inches on each end, or plenty of extra wire to connect to the ground wire on the fence. Once the burial wires are laid in, carefully fill dirt back in, keeping the wire pushed down as you pack dirt back into the trench. If possible, use a tamping bar to pack dirt back in, or simply stomp over the dirt to pack it down. Level out the dirt as evenly as possible to allow the gate to swing open and closed. Next, we want to connect our sections of the fence. To connect the hot wire between the fence sections, we are going to connect the insulated burial wire for our hot wire to the lowest hot wire on the fence. Using a NitroPress tap, slip the tap over the lower bottom hot wire and slip the burial wire end through the other opening to connect the two wires. Use a NitroPress tool, tap down to secure the connection. Repeat on the other side of the fence, again connecting the lowest hot wire on the fence to the insulated burial cable. Now that we have wires connected on both ends of the gate and fence sections, the energy is flowing between both sections of the fence. To connect our ground wire between fence sections, we use the same process, connecting the ground burial wire to the ground wire on the fence. The ground wire connection is now carried between both sections of the fence. Repeat this with all the gates around the fence to create a complete circuit. The last step is to connect the fence hot wires to the gate offset hot wires. One option is to run an insulated wire between one hot wire on the fence and one hot wire on the gate, and simply securing the connections with taps, joint clamps, or wire tying techniques. A second option is to install a wire cutoff switch if you prefer to have the option to turn off the power to the gate. This is simply a personal preference. For our gate design, we are going to be installing a cutoff switch to the gate wires, allowing the gate electric wires to be turned off when entering the fence. We will place our cutoff switch at the convenient level on the post next to the gate, on the end of the gate that is attached to the post, not on the free swinging side. This will allow us to run a wire from the gate to the fence for our connection while keeping the free swinging end of the gate open. To install a cutoff switch, use long screws or nails, roughly about 3 to 4 inches long, to secure them to a wood post, or an alternative method if you're using a T-post. Once the cutoff switch is in place, using insulated wire, run wire from the cutoff switch port to the closest hot wire on the fence. Strip back about a half of an inch on tubing to expose the wire. Run another piece of insulated wire between the other port on the cutoff switch to the closest gate offset hot wire. Leave this piece with extra length to allow for some bend when the gate swings open. Now that we have all of our 3 offset hot wires connected along all the sections of the fence, along with connected to all the gate hot wires, we are ready to energize our fence. See our next video, video 6, for installing the energizer and grounding system on the electric fence.